Oedfa. Good evening. Oh, magnets, yeah. This is very fancy. In Ammanford, we just write things on slates and use old loud halos and stuff like that. But you've got proper technology over here. Well, Aaron's asked me to explain to you a bit of the Christmas story and proclaim the good news of Jesus. So we're going to need some help for that. You might need a Bible, or I can read to you a little bit of the story later on. But you also need a Christmas cracker. So has anybody brought a Christmas cracker in their pocket? No, that's okay. All right, okay. I've got a box. I've got a box of these. So maybe, Aaron, you can give me a hand. Pass some of these around. And I need a volunteer who's willing to pull a cracker with me. Here, Joseph. Do you think you could help me out? There you go. Pull it with the person next to you when you come. Oh, there you go. You won. Okay, can you pull out what's inside there? What we need to help us this evening is to remember the three things that there are inside a cracker. And then I'm going to read you a little story from the Bible and see if you can spot those three things in here. So what are the three things? Go on, pull your cracker when you get to it. What are the three things that you get inside a cracker normally? Here we go. You get an explosion. But what are the three gifts if you win? Can you see, what have you got inside your cracker? Usually we have a joke or two. So I hope that these are crackers with jokes. These are Little's finest. So I hope they haven't skimped on things. Can anybody read me a cracker joke? I think we need to start the evening with a little bit of joy. Go on, yeah. Can you read? What do you drain your carrots with at Christmas? I hope this is a joke, not just a fact.
An advent colander.
Advent colander. Good. You can tell that's a cracker joke because nobody laughs. You just groan, isn't it? Who's got another groan-worthy? Go on. Can you read it to us? How does Darth Vader like his Christmas turkey? On the dark side. That's good. Okay. He's cutting with a lightsaber, maybe. You have no turkey left. Joseph, have you got another one? What kind of ball doesn't bounce? Snowball. Yeah, good. That's good. Factual as well as funny too. So, okay, you've got a joke in your Christmas cracker. What else do you get usually? I hope you've got these tonight. I didn't test them before I came. I can see a few people wearing already. You get a crown. So that's the second thing. And what else do you get? Have you got something else with them? A present. Yeah, a present. Okay, so Christmas is about many things. You could say lots of things about Christmas, but those are the three things I want us to think about a little bit this evening. Christmas is something that should bring us joy, at least, hopefully, a bit more joy than cracker jokes. But okay, that's what the joke is all about, something that brings you joy. Christmas is all about a gift that God has given to us. Christmas is all about a king. So you got your joke, you got your gift, you got your crown. See if you can spot those three things in these words. These are words written by a man called Isaiah, about 2,500 years ago. But they're words that we read almost every Christmas time. They're from a passage called Isaiah chapter 9. It's kind of halfway through the Bible. This is about 500 years before Jesus was born. He's writing to people who are struggling with war, basically. There's been a war up in the north of their country. A lot of their family, friends, distant cousins have been dragged off to a place called Assyria. It's a really, really scary time. They were worried that they were going to be invaded as well. So there's darkness across the land. There's war, there's fighting, there's disease, there's tears, suffering and sadness everywhere. And then Isaiah speaks to them and he says this: "The people walking in darkness have seen a great light. On those living in the land of deep darkness, a light has dawned. You have enlarged the nation," talking to God, "and increased their joy. They rejoice before you as people rejoice at harvest time, as warriors rejoice when dividing the plunder after they've won a battle." Why are they rejoicing? Do you hear the joy? Well, for to us a child is born. To us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders, and he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Of the greatness of his government and peace there'll be no end. He'll reign on David's throne and over his kingdom, establishing and upholding it with justice and righteousness from that time on and forevermore. The zeal of the Lord Almighty will accomplish this. Did you spot those three things? The people walking in darkness have seen a great light and they rejoice. There's joy. Why? Because somebody's been given to us. And who is that somebody? Well, we'll come to him in a little bit. But joy. Joy is something that we often think about. We often look forward to at Christmas. Isn't it? I wonder what it is that brings you joy, sparks joy in your own life. Maybe it's food, like with me. I remember I grew up in Asia. And when we came back to the UK, my mum said, having Christmas back in the UK for the first time for a long time, what would make Christmas really special? And pretty much everything we came up with were food-related things. We're going to have pigs in blankets. Those are pretty rare out where we lived. We're going to have proper roast potatoes, really nice Maris Pipers or something like that. We're going to have lots and lots of different food. That's the kind of thing that brings me joy. Wonder if it's for you, family, the right people around the table. That's the thing that makes you really happy and joyful. Maybe it's gifts, receiving gifts, giving gifts. Maybe that's one of your love languages. You love the gift part of Christmas. For me, Christmas stockings, that's maybe my favorite part. Getting up early in the morning, I have 4 little kids, and they pile on way too early, pile on the bed, take their stockings, open them, and there's lots of chocolate, and people are feeling sick before we've even really got out of bed in the morning. That's when you know Christmas has started well, when stockings and all of that is all over the bed already before it's 4 in the morning. Christmas is about joy, isn't it? But a lot of the time, it is all that kind of stuff that brings us joy, that we rely on to bring us joy. So if we have the right food on the table, we'll feel all right. If we have the right people around the table, we'll feel all right. If we have the right gifts under the tree, manage to get what you were really hoping to get or to give, we'll have joy. And often our joy, our happiness is based on circumstances. But the people in the story in Isaiah 9, their circumstances are about as bad as you could get, but they're still rejoicing. They have almost no food on the table. They were under siege, or at least they would be not long after this. A lot of the people that they loved had been dragged off into exile, dragged off captive to somewhere that they would never come back from. There was darkness across the land, but they're still rejoicing because their joy somehow doesn't just rely on circumstances. It isn't just the food or the people or the weather or that everything's gone all right, that nobody's argued on Christmas Day. Their happiness, their joy isn't based on circumstances. There's something even deeper to it. I wonder if you've ever tasted joy like that. That is even there when you know you'll never have the same people around the table ever again. So Christmas maybe for you, it's a really sad time. It's a time where you remember past joys and you sort of dread Christmas Day and the emptiness of it. I wonder if you felt what it's like to have that joy sucked away because circumstances aren't quite right and never will be right again. Well, then there's good news. There's real hope for us because these people who've lost people, who are living under a shadow of darkness, they still have joy. Do you remember what it says? They rejoice like people at harvest time. They rejoice like warriors who've made it to peacetime. And they're going to go back and see their families again. People are rejoicing even when everything's dark around them. Why is that? Well, it's for a very strange reason. They're rejoicing much more than just cracker jokes can help you rejoice. They're rejoicing over something really special, really amazing. The thing that they're rejoicing over is the gift. So did we get any gifts in our crackers? Anybody get a good gift? Anybody get a little pocket knife or a screwdriver set? It's my favorite cracker gift. I've got loads of those in the cupboard. Did anybody get any gifts, or were these giftless crackers? Oh, no. Sorry? Spot the difference. Okay, well, that would keep you going for a few seconds after dinner, waiting for dessert. Okay, maybe we need to upgrade our cracker game for actual Christmas Day. But usually you get a gift, don't you? What's the best thing about a gift? I don't know what you like about gifts. Maybe the thoughtfulness. So it's the thought that counts. That's what we often say. Maybe it's the usefulness. Maybe it's the beauty, something that somebody's made with their own hands. Or you can see it's really precious, it's really expensive, or really, an heirloom or something that's been passed down to you. Maybe it's the surprise. So when I was growing up, we never asked for gifts. My parents never asked us what we wanted. We just always had surprises. And I remember a Christmas where I looked in my parents' suitcase before we went back out to Asia, and I knew what I was getting. And it's just spoiled Christmas Day. It was really a bad move. But the worst Christmas present I ever received, I wonder what yours is. Do you have one in mind that was really bad? Okay, bearing in mind that stockings are my favorite part of Christmas. One year, there were too many children in our family, so one year we decided we're going to do a rota for stockings. So rather than my mother having to go out and buy 4 sets of Terry's chocolate oranges, 4 sets of other chocolate, 4 sets of more pencils, she was getting, running out of money, running out of time, so we decided we'd do stockings for each other. So we have a rota system in our family now, where you all do each other's stockings year by year. The year that you really want to have is my little sister. She's extremely generous. She does a great stocking. The worst year is my eldest sister, Fiona. One year, do you know what she did? She collected up all of the rubbish little plastic gifts from the office Christmas party, from the crackers in the office Christmas party, and she filled my stocking with those. There were 1 or 2 other things, but she was like, oh, I'm in medical school. I'm too busy. I don't have time to do a real one. So she just gave me all the rubbish gifts. It was the worst thing. Still gets me now. You can feel that, can't you? I've not quite forgiven her for it. That was the worst present I ever had. But the best present was a surprise. It was really, really beautiful. I still have it now up in the attic. Still bring it down every now and again for my children to play with. At just about the right age. It was a Scalextric track. Do you know what that is? I was hoping for a bit of an intake of breath. Like, oh, wow, amazing. I had it when I was about 6 or 7 years old, I think. And it was bigger than me. The box for it was enormous. So big, my parents didn't have enough wrapping paper to wrap it. They wrapped it in black bin bags instead. I had no idea what it was. But they bought me a Scalextric track, so I brought you some of my cars. Do you know what Scalextric? Maybe some of you don't know what it is. It's like a racing track that works off electricity. You plug it into the wall, build it. It takes all afternoon to build it, get the WD-40 out and kind of make sure it's all working. And then you get your little electrical gizmo thing, and you can race your cars around it. You need 3 or 4 brothers and sisters to help you. They have to sit at every corner, because the cars always crash off. They put them back on, and you can race them around. It was just the best Christmas gift I ever got. It was amazing. But what about this gift? This gift is something beautiful and really useful. Something really thoughtful, but extremely surprising. Did you hear the surprise? These people who are in a war zone, the darkness of death is over the land. Everybody's known somebody who's disappeared forever. And the good news? The thing that brings them joy forever is, did you hear what it was? It's a crazy story, the Christmas story. For unto us a child is born. To us a son is given. Have you ever paused and thought how odd it is that our best holiday of the whole year, where we spend an awful lot of money and time putting it all together, trying to make it perfect, centers around a little baby being born? I mean, it's amazing when babies are born. It's a really wonderful thing. But that all of world history, that all of the hopeless and weeping people in the world, that everybody who lives under the shadow of death would have good news because a baby's been born. It's a bit of an odd and strange thing, isn't it? You'd expect maybe a king riding on his horse at the head of a great army. That would be good news for people who'd lost the battle. You'd expect, I don't know, a very wise and clever philosopher, somebody, teacher, who would come and teach you how everything would go. That would maybe be good news, who would help you solve all of your problems. I don't know, who would be good news to people who are struggling like we struggle? To people who've lost people? To those of us who, to be honest, feel like there really is a cloud over our lives? What would be good news? Well, what's really good news is this surprising, beautiful, useful, thoughtful present who is Jesus. That's who this is talking all about. He's not just any old baby that's born. It's not just a general statement that kind of our hopes in the next generation. If we have some children, then they'll carry on, we'll have some hope in the future. It's not just a general thing. It's a very specific thing. One particular baby was born. One particular boy was given to us. Do you know who he was? God walking into our world. That's why we celebrate Christmas. It's the most amazing story. One of my favorite illustrations to try and get our heads around it is to think about this. There was an author called Dorothy Sayers. About 100 years or so ago, she was one of the first women to go to Oxford University, in fact, to go to any university in the UK. One of the first women to graduate. And she became a very famous author writing detective fiction. Her main character is a guy called Lord Peter Wimsey, and he solves mysteries. That's what he does. He's an aristocrat. He kind of doesn't have anything better to do. So he goes around and finds crimes and solves them. But he's a single man through most of the books. He's on his own, begins to get a little bit lonely, and then all of a sudden, a woman appears in the story. She's called Harriet. Turns out that she was one of the first women to have graduated from Oxford University in the story. Turns out that she also loves detective fiction, and so she gets together with Lord Peter Wimsey, and they go off and solve mysteries together and have good company. And Dorothy Sayers never confirmed it, but the theory goes that as she was writing her books, she looked into the world that she'd made, this world of Lord Peter Wimsey and all of his mysteries. She looked into that world, saw this character that she loved, saw that he was lonely, and can you see what she did? She wrote herself into the story. She never said that was exactly what she did, but I reckon it's true. I reckon that's what she did. She wrote herself into her own story, and that's what God has done for us. That he is the one who made us, but he's looked into the world, seen how sad and dark it is, and written himself into the story. That is a beautiful story. It's something that really should bring us way more joy than just food or even people or circumstances going just the way we'd planned them. Something that you can hold on to for life. It's a gift that's given to us. We never really expected or asked for. Something really beautiful that God would come to us. Imagine how difficult that would be. Imagine how much he must love us to do that. So if you're into Lego, it's one for the children. I don't know if you've got a bit of Lego at home. Imagine what it would be like if you looked at your Lego people and you thought, I would love to go and speak to them. I'd love to go and get to know them a little bit, for them to get to know me, and explain why things happen in our games. So imagine what you'd have to do to become a Lego person. You would have to shrink yourself down. Imagine you had the power to do that. And you'd have to give yourself hands that only can ever do this. Like you can only click onto things rather than hold them. So you lose your opposable thumbs. And you'd lose your elbows, so your arms can only do that. You'd lose your knees. Poor old Lego men. They only can do this, forward and back, and barely even back at all. So you're really struggling to move. And then think about your face. You're only allowed one facial expression, one haircut. Or if you get a haircut, you have to pull it all off and then put a new haircut on, or pull your hair off to put a hat on. It's a really difficult life to be a Lego person. To shrink yourself down and go and talk to them would be really difficult, wouldn't it? You'd make a lot of sacrifices. So think what God has done, the one who fills the universe from end to end and beyond. Imagine what it was like for him to be a little baby. My eldest is called Johan. I remember when he was a baby, one of my favorite things to build up his immune system, one of my favorite things to do is to get him to suck the end of my nose. And I remember the day that he grew a tooth and started pinched, so he never was allowed to do it after that. I pinched and bit my nose. It really hurt. I remember exactly where I was standing, exactly what I was looking at as I was holding him, and he hurt my nose for the first time with his first tooth of my first child. Imagine that. Mary got to hold God in her arms. The mouth that had spoken the whole of creation into being wasn't able to speak and didn't have any teeth. The hands that threw the stars into space, if you like, were just little hands that could barely do anything but grab a little finger. It's an amazing story that God has given himself to us, that he's walked into the story of history, given himself to us. We didn't ask for him. We didn't expect him to come. It's an amazing gift that he's given. But what's inside the gift? When you get a gift, you've got to unwrap it, don't you? When you get a cracker, you don't just leave them on the table. Usually you start Christmas dinner by pulling it and opening it, seeing what you get, read out the joke, put on the crown, play with the gift for a little bit. If you receive a gift, you don't just leave it wrapped under the tree, but you open it and enjoy it and say thank you for it and see what it is. So if you were to open this gift, open up Jesus and see what he's all about, what would you find? Well, Isaiah told us here. He says, when this baby comes, the government will be on his shoulders. He'll be a great king who will sit on the throne of his father David. David was one of the famous kings. You know, David and Goliath, David, you heard of him, one of the famous kings of the Old Testament. And God promised to him that he would have a son who would reign forever, not just for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, 70 years, but reign forever. And what would he be like? This king, this gift given to us? Well, he'd be Wonderful Counselor. If you ever have a problem, you can go and talk to him about it. And he'll know what to do and he'll help you. He'll be mighty God. We've already talked about that. He won't just be any old baby, any old teacher, any old helper, any old storyteller, any old preacher. He'll be God himself walking among us. So you want to know what God is like? You ever wanted to know if God even exists? Well, go and look at Jesus. Go and spend some time studying Jesus and you'll see. You'll see who he is. You'll see what God is really like. He's mighty God, all the power in the world to do good. Wonderful Counselor, mighty God, everlasting Father. You ever wanted a father to scoop you up and keep you safe? To make you completely secure? A father who would never leave, never die, who would have all the best answers and be able to fix everything. Who would have all the power in the world to keep you completely and utterly safe. That's who Jesus is. He's the everlasting Father and Prince of Peace. It's another big Christmas theme, isn't it? Joy and peace. Jesus is the one who's given to us to bring us joy that doesn't depend on circumstances and to give us peace that would last forever. I wonder if you've ever felt that, if you've ever lost that or missed out on that. Maybe Christmas time we feel it most of all. We're just a little bit distant from each other. That sometimes there's no peace between us. That there's distance and lack of peace between nations. That's pretty obvious if you just turn on the news. That sometimes we even feel that between us and our environment. It's all changing and getting warmer and then colder and then windier and then wetter. And it feels like we're cut off from, not really at peace with the world that we're supposed to call home. And then it comes to God. And we might even ask, well, is he even there? Does he even care about us? Is he actually a wonderful counselor who has any answers? Is he the mighty God who can, because surely if he could do, he would have done something about suffering by now. And so God feels far away if he's even there at all. It's because we don't have peace with him. Because we've got some distance between us and him, like there is between us and people, or us and other nations, or us and the world, or us and even ourselves. We struggle because there's no peace. And then what did Jesus do? Well, Jesus came, Isaiah says, as the Prince of Peace. He grew up and he went looking for all of the people who struggle for peace, the people who are suffering. He went to find them and he wiped away their tears and picked them up and brought them home. He went to find the people who are sick and he touched them, people who nobody else would go near. He touched them and he picked them up and brought them home. The people who were too religious, so religious that they couldn't even recognize God when he walked into the world. He went to them and he spoke to them and he pleaded with them. Jesus was all about bringing peace. Peace between people, peace between nations, peace in ourselves, but most of all, peace with God because he is God. See, that's the thing that's gone wrong in all the world. That's why there was darkness back in Isaiah 9, 2,500 years ago. It's why there's darkness on our TV screens, darkness in our own lands, darkness around the dinner table. Because we don't know God, because we're far away from him. Because there's a kind of a curse, a kind of something has happened in the world. We call it sin. Something that often we do to other people and we sort of cast a shadow over their lives. Something that people often do to us and cast a shadow over our lives. And what did Jesus come to do? Not just to give us wisdom, not just to offer power to fix things, not just to be a father who'd scoop us up and take us home, but to be the Prince of Peace, who would make everything right between us and God again, who'd begin to undo that curse, who'd begin to warm up our hearts so that we'd know ourselves again, who'd begin to fix the world under our feet, begin to fix relationships between us and make peace. And then, most of all, make peace between us and the Father. I wonder if you know Jesus. I wonder if you've ever heard him say, the grown-up Jesus, 30-odd years old, just a little bit younger than me, he said, "Come to me, all who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. I'll give you peace." So you're somebody who feels like you're, well, what did Isaiah say? Walking in darkness, living in the land of deep darkness. Have you got a shadow over your life? Are you struggling at the moment? Well, I wonder if you'd come to Jesus. I wonder if you would ask him to help you and be your wonderful counselor. If you'd ask him to come and use his power to fix things. If you'd ask him to come and scoop you up and let him know that you have a Father who loves you. I wonder if you'd let him come and bring you peace as the Prince of Peace. Well, we're going to sing a song now. It's another well-known carol, "O Little Town of Bethlehem," is how it begins. And the last verse of that is a prayer. So we're going to sing it as a prayer, if you like. If you can, we'll stand as the musicians play. And the last verse goes like this. Let me read it to you. And then as we sing it through, maybe you can use it as a prayer for yourself to God today. It goes like this. O holy child of Bethlehem, descend to us, we pray. Not just in the history, but today. He promises, if he's the king who reigns forever, to be able to come and descend into our hearts and be with us today. So descend to us, we pray. Cast out our sin and enter in. Be born in us today. So why don't we stand and sing together and make that our prayer this evening.